Shikilieni farasi zenyu, jambazi kwa mtaa, wana sing song kama Mr. Nice, wana hewa ANC Supersonic MC.
Na yongea venye naitembea, watu wengine ukiwakosea wanakuongea kila mahali wakikuharibia jina. Watu wengine wanaogopa kukufa lakini wako tayari sana kushinda kukumbuzi ng'ombe. Hao wanawake wako material.
They've been #1 on the Kenyan charts for weeks. They're from NYUMBANI, a home for HIV/AIDS infected children abandoned by their families. NYUMBANI is famous in Nairobi. It's seen as a success story. 92 children, all of them infected with HIV/AIDS. But to the outside world, they all look healthy, happy and talented. They even seem to have a future. But NYUMBANI is still the sad reflection of Kenyans' deep-seated fears.
Their families literally abandon these children. Some of them have been abandoned when they are infants. Some of them are abandoned when they are older. Now, the situation outside is that the community is not accepting them. Why? Because of their HIV situation. So they feel stigmatized and discriminated upon. And that's why many of them will not be very free to go out and stay out in the community. Even they are now discriminated in the schools. They can't learn with the other school, people in the schools around here.
Some of them see us, we are good children to them, we are nice. But some, they say that we should be locked in NYUMBANI, we should stay here, no going outside. Some people will get AIDS.
But outside, things don't look so good either. In Kenya, 2.2 million out of a population of 30 million are HIV positive, and 1.5 million have died of AIDS. The government recently declared the virus a national disaster. This is Kibera, on the outskirts of Nairobi. It is the largest slum in sub-Saharan Africa, with an estimated population of 1 million. Laura sells fries for a living here. She's 37 years old and has been HIV positive since the year 2000. She was infected by her second husband, who left her as soon as he found out.
At the time when I learnt that I was HIV positive, I was really upset and sick. My head used to hurt. I used to cough. But now I feel better. I cope with it. Sometimes I have sores on my body, but that's all. And I don't get sick so often.
Laura has learned to live with the infection but doesn't want her neighbours to know she's HIV positive. She and her family would be rejected by the entire community, and that would be a disaster. Not only does she have 3 children of her own, but 5 more who she cares for since her brother and sister died of AIDS. Laura lives in constant fear of the future.
I wish life would go on. I wish I could find medicines so that I could continue taking care of my children until they grow up and know what they want to do. I feel fine because I'm taking care of these children, my neighbours' children, my brother's children, because God's given them to me. I cannot give up. Whatever I get now, I share with them. I don't know who will look after them later.
For now, Laura still has the strength to work, and she works non-stop. Once she finishes selling fries, she takes in washing from neighbours. Some days she doesn't feel up to it, but has to keep going in order to put food on the table. This is the Lea Toto headquarters in Kibera. Lea Toto was created by NYUMBANI to support HIV/AIDS infected people in the slums of Nairobi. Over time, it has become a shelter from stigma, a space of freedom where people can talk about their disease. Laura and her youngest niece, who's 3 years old, both HIV positive, come here regularly. They're treated for opportunistic viruses, but nobody has access to antiretrovirals.
So the drug companies are still holding out. They're not really helping the situation by keeping the prices so high. And the only proof I can give you is that the fact is that in Europe and North America, there are no great numbers of people dying anymore. It's not a fatal disease anymore. In fact, it's just a chronic disease. Then how is it that 700 or 800 a day are dying here in Kenya alone, and maybe 10,000 all of Africa? Simply because the drugs are not affordable, that's all.
More than 30% of the population in Kenya live in urban areas and below the poverty line. Women are particularly vulnerable and often have to rely on prostitution for a living. They now make up the majority of the HIV/AIDS infected, but at least they're also more open to testing. In Lea Toto that day, of the 8 women and children who were tested, 1 was HIV positive. It was a shock for everybody.
They have to cry so that the anger that could have been suppressed is gotten out of. And then some others, they remain in a shock kind of thing. There's also the issue of denial. Some will say, no, I don't believe this. I don't believe the results. I'll go and test myself some other place. So what we normally do through the counseling, at least we advise them, yes, you can go and test yourself again and again. But the important thing is that if there is a situation of such, whereby you cannot be able to say, I'm going to tell myself so that it gets out of me. It's there. You just need to accept it. Once you accept it, and with proper instructions on how to care for yourself, nutritionally, maybe physically, that's the time you can live even longer.
But denial has different faces. This 28-year-old woman was diagnosed with TB several months ago. Her family accepted the verdict at face value and has chosen to keep her at home. Recently, her mother finally decided to ask for a second opinion as her daughter took a turn for the worse. But it's already too late. The disease is in its final stages.
Somebody is sick within a family setup, but the family doesn't allow this person to go for treatment because the other neighbors might see that patient, maybe how weak he or she is. So they rather stick with the person within the home. The lives of these people who are HIV positive has been shortened just because they have been separated from the rest of the community. They are like an abomination within the community, so they rather be kept away.
HIV/AIDS is seldom acknowledged in Kibera. People have TB, cancer, malaria, or they're simply cursed. Some even say that it's an airborne disease. Those who accept their status become social outcasts. That's what happened to Elizabeth. Since she was diagnosed with HIV, her husband has been increasingly absent and lives with his other wife. Elizabeth is now raising her 3 children almost entirely single-handed. The youngest, Paul, is also HIV positive. Although she hasn't said anything to her family, the secret of her disease has leaked out into the community.
When you have AIDS and your neighbors find out about it, they keep away from you. Even friendship dies there. Even drinking a glass of water at their place becomes impossible because they're afraid to catch it. They don't even let my children play with their children. They're afraid of being infected.
Back in NYUMBANI, most of the children are from the slums and know what to expect. Going back to the outside world doesn't seem to be an option for now.
Would you like to go outside NYUMBANI one day?
Maybe to visit.
For the children, NYUMBANI is home, but it's a home that has its detractors.
Of late, we have had a lot of criticisms that we are still primitive, parochial in the care of children because we are still holding an institution. And I would tell you that that's why it's called a home. NYUMBANI is a Swahili word that means a home. And we don't want to equate it to an institution per se. All our activities are more or less geared towards a homely atmosphere. At the same time, looking at the society at large, more so in Kenya, there is still a need for a place where the children can go if they are abandoned. Where else?
While the international community debates the merits of institutions versus care at home, the number of street children in Nairobi increases every day. They now number over 15,000. Many are orphaned or infected by HIV/AIDS. Discrimination, poverty, and a lack of infrastructure have left them on the street. They've been abandoned, so where else could they go?